So we have started discussing about the Azure Data Platform, and in the previous article I did share about the different types of data and the different types of data processing system, right? So we also know that depending upon the type of data, you select a data store. So in this video is going to be a short discussion about the relational databases in particular, right? And the different data stores available for the relational databases. So what exactly is a relational database, right? So any data which is stored in the form of a table, all right, as a row column format is called a relational database. So in this particular diagram, you can see that there is a table in which you have employee ID and employee name column, right? So that's an example, a basic example of a relational database. You have an employee ID column and you have an employee name column. So there are rows and there are columns, right? So in each row, right, you have an employee ID and employee name. So in each row, there will be one property which has to be unique, right? So the employee ID has to be unique. There cannot be two employees with the same name, same ID, or you can say that in an employee name, like the employee in this table, this row, this particular column or the employee ID field has to be unique, and that's what is called the primary key. So in a relational database, this particular nomenclature called primary key, which you know to understand, it is something which is like the unique attribute of in a table. Okay, the unique attribute in a relational database is called a primary key. It's important for you to understand because you use this primary key and foreign key concept a lot while discussing the relational databases. We'll come into it later in the later sessions, but this is just an introduction about what relational database is, and then the different stores, the different ways in which relational databases can be stored are your the traditional Microsoft SQL Server, which can be on premises or it can be on Azure Cloud as a virtual machine. The Azure SQL database, which is a platform as a service offering from Microsoft. Then you have got MySQL service, and then you have got Oracle databases, right? So we will be diving into each of them in detail in the subsequent sessions. But today, in this short session, my intention is to actually show quickly how to actually get started with your Microsoft SQL in Azure. So as we know that Microsoft SQL Server can be created in on-premises on a Windows server, dedicated server, or else it can be installed on a virtual machine in Azure. And that's what I've done. I have provisioned a SQL Server virtual machine. I've provisioned a virtual machine in Azure of Windows Server 2019. And into that, I have installed the SQL Server 2019 free edition. That's done. And it's all ready. Then I am about to get connected, as you know, using Microsoft SQL Server Management Studio Windows authentication. So I am connected, right? So I have created a SQL Server database in Azure virtual machine, and I'm connected using SQL Server Management Studio. So now let's configure the database. Let's have few quick values and let's see. So for that, I do have few commands here. So let's see how to create a table. So we're going to create two tables, one table with the name employee and another one with the name course. And in the next session, we're going to interconnect these two tables. So I'm going to create a table called, so these are the commands for that. So I'm going to create a table called employee, and that's going to have properties like employee ID and employee name. And the primary key, which is going to be the unique attribute, is going to be the employee ID. Okay, and then you have similarly a table called course, in which you have the properties of course ID and course name, with the primary key being the course ID. So let's quickly create them. Let's see how to create them. I'm just going to copy this, and if I just go to my SQL Server VM, which I have provisioned, I just need to go and click on right click, and then there's something called new query, right? I can just run, I can open the query editor and simply paste the commands here and execute. Right, my first table is created. Similarly, I would like to create my second table, which is the course. Copy, paste, execute. Second one is created. So I do have two tables with the name of employee and course, but they don't have any values. So the next few commands are to actually insert values into them. So I'm going to insert values into my first table called employee, and the accepted fields as defined are employee ID and the name. So the values are going to be 1 employee A, similarly 2 employee B, 3 employee C, and similarly I'm going to insert the same kind of values for course. So I'm going to insert values for course with respect to course ID, with respect to the name of the course and the price and the corresponding values, right? So let's quickly go and insert the values. Just need to copy and paste, execute. There is a syntax error. It should be in one single command. There should not be any space. Execute. Done. Similarly, let me insert values into my the course table, which is here. Just delete and just copy and paste it. Execute. Done. Right, so I do have two tables and I have corresponding values for them. Let me check the values. I can execute this command. Then the table. So I'm just going to select my first table. So select star from employee table. Let me see what it fetches, and it fetches me the values that I did enter now. Similarly, let me see for the other table, course. Okay, so execute. Yes, so I do have two tables and I do have corresponding values in them. So the next session we're going to actually see how to interconnect the table. So the first table has a partition key of employee ID. The second table has a partition key of course ID. So in the next video, I'm going to show you how to interconnect, how to create a relationship between the two tables by means of a foreign key. Right. So that was a short discussion about a relational data, one kind of a relational database called Azure SQL, not Azure, sorry, Microsoft SQL Server database as an Azure VM. Hope that was helpful. Thank you.